No, but I thought he was.
Being 7 o'clock, we'll call the Marathon County Board of Supervisors to order. If you would please stand to recite the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing because that will be followed by a moment of reflection. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will have the reading of the notice, please.
An educational meeting of the Marathon County Board of Supervisors will convene at the Marathon County Courthouse, Assembly Room 500 Forest Street in the city of Wausau at 7 p.m. on Thursday, January 17, 2019, and the agenda was duly signed and posted.
Thank you. I would like to request everyone please silence their cell phones and any other electronic devices, please, therefore not interrupting the meeting. And we will proceed to roll call if all the supervisors would please sign in. And can we put the... Thank you. Supervisor Gumbs, if you could confirm, please. Thank you, and we will proceed. And I would like to welcome all of the visitors that we have with us, including the viewing audience. And we will move on to item number 7, 15-minute public comment. And we had nobody approach the chair or the clerk. And so we will move on to education presentation and reports. Item number A, priority-based budgeting by the administrator.
I'm giving back-to-back presentations, and I know that means you got to be brief. So I'll skip through a lot of stuff that's in the article and tell you what I think is most important. We've invested quite a bit of money and effort into priority-based budgeting, and we're not doing well yet. But we will. The philosophy of priority-based budgeting is you figure out what's most important and you make sure you do that well. And you do that by reducing your investments on things that aren't as important. Part of that is separating your wants from your needs and investing in the programs where you know you make a difference. So what I think we could do to be better at it at the standing committee level is improving the quality of questions that we ask. The question when you're talking about a program is not what. And that's what we're getting a lot of. What do you do? And you're getting a 20-minute explanation of what they do. The real question is, so what? What difference did it make in the community? Did it make any difference in the community? Let me just give you a small conversation. When we started this some 20 years ago, when we were doing it without the consultants, I remember having a conversation with one of the public health nurses from the health department. And her job was to work with 15 and 16-year-olds who had gotten pregnant. And she worked with them on a number of different needs, but the primary goal was to see that they didn't have another baby before they were 18. Because the evidence was clear. You can still survive an early pregnancy and have a pretty dang good life. But if you have 2 before you're 18, that's going to be a monumental task. And I remember saying, okay, well, if that's our grant, let's evaluate. We know from statistics that 50% will have that second baby before 18 if we do nothing. So shouldn't we be monitoring to see what progress? So anything under 50 is good. And a person got so angry with me. It's like, well, this is an interesting conversation. No, and finally it boiled down to, I can't be responsible for what other people do. But you see, the whole point of the program was to influence their behavior. And it's not like we're going to make you wrong. The point is your intervention working to accomplish what we thought was most important? Not are we going to criticize you. It doesn't have to, you don't have to be wrong. It's just maybe there's a different methodology. So that's, if you had before the committee, what does the person do? And you just listen to, they work with people so they don't have that second baby and all the other child care needs, that would be great. But the real question is, how much reduction has occurred? Let me give you another real life example. Just last year, the Health and Human Services Committee talked about a possible reduction to StartRight. Let me remind you, $1.7 million, it's unique to Marathon County. And I remember the outcome. The staff told you that its primary impact, its most important goal, is that it will reduce child abuse and neglect. Okay, those of you who are on the committee, how much did child abuse and neglect go down? Okay, you don't know because you didn't ask. I didn't think to ask either. I'm not trying to make anybody wrong. I'm just trying to suggest, if that's the primary goal, shouldn't we be monitoring that? Here's another question. Are we in the top third of the counties in Wisconsin for child abuse and neglect, or the bottom third? I don't know that either. I tried to find that out. I don't know that either, but I'm just trying to suggest things that might be most important, because we've got to start to think about our money as community investments. And the concept of an investment is you expect to get something back. So here's my suggestion to you as standing committees. Instead of doing what we've done, which is taking those that came out the lowest priorities, which were mostly $30,000, $50,000 programs, and looking at those, what if each of you took a look at the 5 most expensive programs that you monitor and started to talk to the staff about what is the most important goal or purpose of this program, and how do you know if we got it? What is the evidence that it actually worked? I think you're going to find our programs are pretty successful, but I think that process could get us to think differently. You know, when a program just sits idle and nobody pays a lot of attention to it, which is the truth about the secure detention facility, we had a facility that operates financially at a balance of 15, and it operated for years with 6. Okay, so, you know, just challenging departments to look at things and see if there are additional revenue sources so that we can cover our costs, because I know a lot of people are hopeful, and I'm with them. There's a new governor, there's a new relationship. I think there's going to be new money for child welfare, and there's going to be additional money for transportation, but in the end, we're still going to have levy caps, and we're still not going to have enough money to do everything everybody thinks we should do. We have to learn to make choices. And I think, you know, working the data, we've now got a great data set. I've been working every Wednesday, me and Mary and Lance and a team of department directors, to go through each of the things that are submitted and revise them. We had a lot of departments have administration as a program. Okay, well, administration is not your program. If you had all the other programs went away, you wouldn't still have administration. Administration needs to be divided amongst the things where you spend your time, and we've made a lot of progress on that. And we're going to purchase another thing that makes it easier for the elected officials and the public to look at this and create some great charts. You know, one of the things you'll see is, you know, and if you look at the article, the things we said are most important: healthiest, safest, and most prosperous. Well, let me ask you with this: where do you think most of your money is? Safety. About 80% of your money is in safety. You know, it depends on where you put the highways. You probably put that in prosperity, but they're way less than everything else. So your money's in safety. And if that's what you want, that's good. But at least you can get a sense of where your money's going and what's gone over time. I will bet if you tracked it over time, you would find that the safety has grown as a percentage of our budget year after year for the last 20 years. Just a guess, but you know, these are the kinds of discussions we ought to be having. We need to use it. We need to use the Bay database. We've invested in it. We've said we want to make choices. We've got to just keep working at it. Someday it'll click, you know. But one last point is, my predecessor, when we first talked about this, said the board will never cut anything. Okay, and I believe in you. So don't let me down. I think that if we can get this process going, I think we can make choices along the model of investment that will reflect well on us and make good long-term choices. I'm not just trying to cut everything. We don't have to cut everything. We're not in financial distress. But we will be if we just do things that just get us by year after year and not really think about what's most important. And the other thing is, even if you don't change what you have, when something new comes up, let's think about it. Let's think about it in a different way. Let's think about it as a community investment and see what we can do with that. The last thing I just want to say is, you can't just sit and wait for the perfect solution. If you wait for that, it will never happen. You know, one thing I heard about secure detention is, it's better for families to meet them in Wausau than to go to Point. I know that. Okay, how much is that worth? And is that worth what the other choices you make? So waiting for the perfect solution is to mean that we're not going to be able to do it. You have to, what I think we should do is be open about what the trade-offs are and intentional about that and honest with people is that in order to make this work, we traded something off. We knew what it was. We manage it. We continue to monitor it. I'm kind of out of stuff. See if are there any questions?
Any questions on the priority-based budgeting and the approach that we're looking at trying to encourage the committees to move towards? Supervisor Rosenberg.
Thank you. I don't have a question, but I'm really fired up about this. I really like this program, and I know that during our budget time, I took some time to log on and get a bunch of screen grabs of these graphs, and it took hours to do this and kind of explain, and the community was really into it too. I had a lot of really good feedback about this, so I'm really encouraged that you're talking about having something that we can share a little bit more easily.
Yeah. I think part of the strength of this is to get the community involved in determining what the priorities are too.
Yeah, so that's the other thing. Actually, the company that produced this software just published an article about Colorado, who the entire state is using this. And so then they're able to compare against each other. So it's really kind of a cool thing. So I don't know, do we encourage our neighbors? Do we encourage, the state to take this on so we have really good metrics in that way? But it's just one of those things that's pretty interesting.
Right. We do have a neighbor involved in this that's about a year ahead of us called Washington County. Besides us, they have the lowest rate of borrowed money. And they started off in their first couple of years, the first thing they evaluate is funding for nonprofit agencies. The next thing they looked at is getting greater revenues out of programs that can generate revenues and target a specific benefit to individuals. The third thing is they are reevaluating their borrowing policies and determining what things they should really be borrowing for because they have a 30-year life and should be paid for over the spread of that rather than try to pay for too much of it with immediate money. Any of that sound familiar? Okay, well, we're all in Wisconsin. They're as close to a mirror of us as anybody. I think what would be West Bend is a county board seat, county seat. So they're about our size, or bigger, I guess, but a little bit more urban. But from a financial perspective, they're very close to us, and we can work with them, learn what they learn. They can learn from us, and start to create a learning community. One of the problems with counties in Wisconsin, and counties fought against this, but it really was a big mistake, I think, years ago. School districts are required to have a standard set of accounts. So you can compare almost every school district with each other on these accounts. Counties fought that, and now we all account for everything differently. So those comparisons are so much more difficult. So I talked to Mark O'Connell way back when this came up, said, it'd really be great if we talked to the state and we required these. He said, talk to anybody but not me. I'm not going to bring that up. I can tell you right now, there's 71 counties who don't want to do that. So that's a work in progress. But sometimes when you make a mistake, it's hard to get it back because now everybody's always set up a different way of accounting for things, and everybody would have to change to get to a standard. I said, but the schools do it, and you can actually run a good school database and say they spend this much on special ed and all these others, and here's their population, here's their demographics. They have a common set so you can make some easy comparisons, at least amongst the other districts.
Okay, any other questions for Brad on priority-based budgeting? Okay, seeing none, Brad, if you want to, work right into your report on the results of the 2018 administration work plan.
And you can see on the date, I was working on this on Christmas Eve. Well, that's it. so that's a I guess something. The first thing we're talking about, these are the things that we planned for last year, and I'm just going to give a final report as to where I think they are now. And I'm going to do next year's by committee and by the strategic plan. The staff really wants me to organize it around the strategic plan, but I think it's a lot easier for the board if I organize it around the standing committee, they'll have oversight of it, because then you kind of know I'm talking about you, and it's your committee. So I'm going to start with the Education Economic Development Committee, and the revolving loan fund is in place. It's $3.2 million already. You know, this is for a business startup, business expansion. That's a lot of money. It's $1 million from us, $1 million from the Alexanders, and $1.2 million from a coalition of borrowers. That's a lot of money. You're talking about grants of, you know, 30, 40,000 gap financing, not primary financing. I've had people say, well, we don't make risk loans. No, this is risk loans. If it wasn't a risk loan, a regular financial institution would make that. Doesn't mean it's a crazy loan. Okay, or even your business plan says you can't make money. There's a difference between this and that. But, you know, this is, I think, a real step in the right direction. There should be funding there for people who have new business ideas that want to expand them, and that's the key to our growth in the future. One other thing on education and economic development wasn't part of the plan, but you're going to hear a bit more about it today, is this whole creation of UWSP WASA. And, you know, that's been an important thing that we've worked through. The title, the name is not important to me. Here's what's important to me, is that institution provides access to people who are plenty smart enough to go to college, who, if that school didn't exist, wouldn't go. They wouldn't go because they're place-bound, because they can't afford to go to a more expensive institution, or they need some remedial work. But we don't need less college graduates in Marathon County. We need more. Our future is going to be a high-tech workforce. We've got to stick with that. They're going to give a report. I'm not going to steal their thunder. There's some new exciting things going, but, you know, we got to make sure we maintain that core. And I've made that very clear to the Board of Regents and other people that that's the most important priority here in Marathon County, is continuing to provide access so that we have more people who have the opportunity to get a college degree. Executive Committee. Environmental Resources Committee and Infrastructure Committee, Lance and I are now staffing that. And son of a gun, while I was gone, a policy question broke out. We're talking about spreading manure on ice. And it's a legitimate policy issue that has existed for at least 20 years that I'm aware of. And it's good. Here's what you need to understand. There are competing interests in policy issues, and it's your job to sort them out. The way I see this one, it's environmental protection versus protection of people who are involved in the rural economy and their capacity, economic capacity to be sustained. So, you know, we're here. Part of our job is to provide information to it, but we need to focus in on these big picture issues and get these robust conversations going, because they're important. When I said it's been around 20 years, let's get it resolved. Let's come up with something that the board thinks that they need. Next one, Health and Human Services. The aquatic therapy pool. I had a couple of times where people said to me, well, you know, if we remodel this thing that way, we can do the pool and it can open next summer, not this summer. Oh, no. Oh, no. The pool is opening this summer. And, you know, there's a lot of people put their own money in it. That pool is going to be ready. We're going to cut a ribbon this summer, and people are going to love it. Renovate Mount View Care Center. That's a mega project. The only thing I want to report new is that I'm hearing reports coming out of the North Central Healthcare people that they don't need they want to downsize the size of the nursing home from what the group came up with. And so I look on John's face, that's not what they told us then. Well, it's all about being able to staff it. So I've now worked with the architects, and they're going to do that last. They won't get to that for a couple of years so we can get a little better sense of it, because this is a mega project. But also, the nursing home size, as much as they can do it in their design, has to be flexible, because You don't know what the future is going to be in terms of how many people is the right mix. So as much as they can design it so that you can change and put something else there, that will be everybody's benefit. But clearly, we spent at least a good year, and we all agreed that was what we wanted. Well, the way we've reorganized the way the construction goes, you'll have a little bit more time to think about it. If somebody from North Central Healthcare decides that they want to change that, it has to go back to the standing committee. That became our policy as to what we're doing, and that's the process. Next one, renovate. Oh, I talked about that already. I don't want to talk about that much more. Fumble around here. Hopefully this is the next page. I got human resources, finance, and property. Priority-based budgeting. We have the juvenile detention facility, and I am absolutely committed to trying to raise the revenues of that facility. I don't want to have to close it. It's best for everybody. It disrupts staff. I'm afraid that the 17-year-olds could get tossed back in the juvenile justice system, and then once I get it closed, I got to reopen it. Everything's better if we can do that, but I'm not sure we can do that. But that's what we're going to do. For the first 6 months of this year, we're going to push that as hard as we can to see if we can make this thing pay for itself so that we can free up money to get that additional police channel that has been identified as a top priority by the community. So that's where we stand right now. Well, if that works out, it'll be easy. If it doesn't, then we're going to be talking about trade-offs again. But we have to get that decided this year. Sixth judge. The sixth judge, we have a farm services is located down in River Drive. Some of you probably don't even realize there's a building in front of there. And they always had a lease with us. And what I told them this year is, we're thinking of moving the suite that I'm in, Human Resources, is down there so that we could accommodate a sixth judge, because we're not going to be able to do a building project. If that sixth judge comes, we'll be going down there, so we'll take you month to month. And then I got a notice just today, they're not going to pay their rent because the government's shut down. So in order to entertain myself, I was going to call the manager and say, get your stuff and get out. But I thought they might take me seriously, so I didn't do that. As it's not Diane's not there anymore, and she might take me, the new person might take me seriously. But what's that?
They're not open anyway.
They're not open? Didn't I read something? They're open 3 days a week or something? Is that something else? Oh, no, okay. Well, Sarah, get us that check. You know what, here's the deal. We are not, it's not going to make any difference to us if we get paid now or in July. But just think if that was your only business, is that you rented facilities to the federal government, that was your only source of income, that would be a bigger problem. For us, it's not going to make any difference. We're going to get paid. We'll get paid during the calendar year, at least I think we will. So that's where that stands. That's our preliminary plan. It's all I can think of. If you have a better idea, to add on to the building is going to be a mega cost. This is, you got all the security and all kinds of things. You need to be closer to the other. It'd be better for me, I think, to be in the courthouse, but that's the available space. Broadband. Two committees have really taken a great role in terms of trying to figure out broadband. We need somebody just to dig into this. We've now got a new person going to be hired soon. I haven't gotten an update on it, but it's going to happen soon. And they're going to be taking the lead on this, an extension for half-time. They'll be working half in Lincoln County. We need somebody to not be the expert in everything, but keep us moving, because this is a tough problem, but other places have solved it. And we're, I think, making good progress there. Uniform addressing. Oh, it's almost done. You know what? By July, it'll be done. I'll be glad done talking to it. We got the Supreme Court case. We got the leftovers from last year. Snow, personnel problems. We had all kinds of problems, but we're about to get this done, and I think that once we're done, people will say, "Well, when did you do that? I don't even remember doing it." It'll be a non-issue, but till then, it's going to be still sticking around with us for a while. Drug court. We have run, as long as I can remember, OWI court. And it's been pretty successful, and the bumps on the road have been minimal. This drug court, we're struggling. Every time I turn around, there's something bad happen. It's harder to recover from heroin than alcohol. And, you know, every day there's a new bump in the road and we're putting somebody in inpatient, we're dealing with this and that. It's there, we're doing well, but we've learned some things. This is hard duty. It needs to be done, but it's hard, and I gotta give our people credit. We're learning on the fly. And we'll work our way through it and we'll get better as the year goes on, but it is a struggle. The morgue, regional morgue study, Craig's chairing that. Here's the issue. The issue is we can raise enough money through fees charged by other counties if we're fully staffed and they use our services as they say they will to cover our operational costs. But we can't raise enough money to pay any of the remodeling or facility costs. The question that you may have to wrestle with is, my preference is that we get partners from these other counties and they help us with that cost. The question that's going to be asked of you is, are you willing to pay for all the facilities, which is a subsidy of all the other counties, but I don't think you can charge enough just from fees to cover that. So the committee's going to talk about that, but that's going to be a policy question. And I think the answer is, this thing's got to pay for itself. We'll pay up for the percentage that we use it, but the other counties, if they want to use this, and they're all identified as top priority, they're going to have to be in and be part of the capital cost. I think that we have the architects that are doing the other project just taking a look at the old pool location, and I think that could be converted into a regional morgue. And I think that it would be plenty big enough. I think, you know, people say, well, it's hard to find. You know what? People have been finding a healthcare center for 40 years. So I think that'll be okay. It really won't bother the neighborhood any. It won't. It'll be, a morgue is pretty quiet. So, so I think that could work, but I don't know. Fire paging. I think actually we're on the upswing on fire paging. I waited 10 years to tell you that. And I think we've identified what one of the key problems is that the microwave backbone was poorly designed, and we can reconfigure that to create a more reliable signal. If you didn't know we had a microwave backbone, good for you, because you don't need to know. I'm telling you, it's a very complex system. It costs $10 million to build. It provides all kinds of emergency communications. Also provides data to solid waste in the parks and other places. It's a very sophisticated system. It has been nothing but a struggle. But that's the good news, is that we're starting to turn the corner. The bad news is, what do you think happens to technology after 10 years?
It's obsolete.
So I'm not even going to tell you. I'll just let you guess what happens to technology after 10 years. And I think we're going to get another 2 or 3, maybe 5 years use out of it, but then we're going to be talking about completely ripping and putting in a whole new kind of system, because the expectations of what is done through 911 dispatch and through communications are changing. It's no longer just voice communication. Now they want to be able to, everybody's got a camera, everybody's taking videos, they want to be able to communicate that back and forth to people, and that would certainly make the response better, but it's going to be expensive. Jim wants to do that, but I think actually he'll do it, but he'll just be the subject of the video.
There you go.
Okay,
Okay, any questions for the administrator on the work plan?
thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it was last week or the week before, there was an article in the city pages. The city had eyes on River Drive that the county was talking about closing up those offices down there. Is that just a wish list for the city, or is there
Yes.
something going on there?
Yeah, no. They said, well, could we include your property? And I said, we're not interested in selling that property. And they said, well, you know, maybe if the price were right, and, you know, if we had a developer, you know, if you had riverfront property next to a kayak course in an urban area, you wouldn't build a 1-story office. I don't know if you know the history, but it was Marathon Electric that was originally there, then NTC. And so you wouldn't do that. So I said, okay, well, go ahead and put us in there, but we're still not interested in selling. So maybe the number would be high enough we would be interested. They also better know that when we remodel that, there's a piece of the building that still has a rock in it. It's bedrock down there. So if they're thinking about a high building, they might want to think about, do some soil analysis before they go that far. But I'll tell you what, Alan, I wouldn't lose any sleep over this. I don't think this is going to happen.
Okay, I didn't think so either, but thank you.
Okay?
Supervisor Pfeffrick?
Yeah, thank you. I just had one question. Maybe I missed it. Can you talk a little bit about the conversion of the Environmental Impact Fund to the POUTS program and where that's at?
I missed that, yeah. We're ready to do that. The money's been set aside. What we're waiting to do is we're planning on replicating the Wisconsin fund. And the belief was that in the next state budget, that wouldn't be funded. If that doesn't happen, we'll have that program up and ready to go by the time that state budget is lit. But I don't want to put it up now, because if I put it up too early, people will be applying for this, and we only have so much money. I want it to make it last as long as possible. So the minute the Wisconsin fund goes, our plan will be up and ready, but not before. And if it doesn't happen, well, then we'll hang on to the money, because someday it is going to happen.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you. Next on the agenda, we have item 8C, progress of UWSP WASA in meeting the educational needs of Marathon County residents. And we have Greta Stock-Cooperman and Ann Herda Rapp from UWSP WASA Center here to give us an update. And welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Thanks for having us tonight. I'm Gretel, and this is Anne, and we're delighted to be here. So we just have some updates for you on our integration between the WASA campus and the main campus, as well as some exciting opportunities. And I'll probably go back and forth a little bit, but I have the list of things that we were going to talk about. One of the most exciting things that we are grateful to bring to you tonight is that our MBA is launching not only in our WASA campus, but also in our Stevens Point and Marshfield campuses. This is a 3-campus collaboration where we're going to have a hybrid offering where we have some classes that are on campus, some that are point-to-point, and some that are online in order to meet the educational needs of the region. One of the most exciting things about this MBA is that it was designed specifically with the central Wisconsin in mind. So there's a 15-credit core in this MBA that is what you would get in any MBA program: management, operations, finance, making sure that you understand project management, all those core skills. But 9 credits of the program focuses on serving regions like rural Wisconsin. So that those 3 classes really focus on helping people develop leadership skills and develop competencies and knowledge to help serve the central Wisconsin region, or any other rural region or community-based region that they go to. There's also a professional development component, which is unique to MBA programs, where people who participate in the program will be able to develop their own pathway and get some coaching towards developing their leadership skills, any professional competencies that they need to develop in order to serve the needs of their employer that they're working for. And then there's 9 credits of electives or internship, where they could take that next step at their employer with a new project. They could decide to do something in a new direction or take an elective in a course that interests them. So this is a really flexible and unique degree, possible to complete in 1 year or possible to complete on a part-time basis as well. Applications for our Marshfield and Wausau campuses are open right now and will close on April 1st. And we hope to launch this cohort in fall of this year. So we are very excited to bring that program to you. Related to that, I want to just make mention of this, and we are working with our partners here at the county as well as on the Education, Economic Development, and I'm missing a part, committee, Triple EC committee, is that? Close enough. We will be, the MBA program at UWSP main campus is contributing funds to renovate the space in the CCE building where they're going to reside, just to make it a little more welcoming and have it match their identity in their College of Professional Studies. So just a couple of doorways, a coat of paint. So we will be coming to you and making sure that that goes through all the right channels as far as an FYI. But we are really excited to invest in the building and invest in the resource. And Ann did remind me, by the way, there's a rock in the middle of our building as well, a huge piece of bedrock right in the middle of the facility. So So
Not the CC.
not the CC, no, but in the main building. We are definitely embedded, so to speak, in the community that way. We are also doing some other initiatives to develop new programs in the area. So we're trying to get some coursework on the campuses and working with our colleagues, the other deans of the main campus, to get pathways to some of our most popular programs. Our CNR program, design, business, human services, and healthcare. We want to start pathways so students who start at the Wausau campus can seamlessly go right into programs at UWSP Maine and not be behind at all, or not have to catch up with any major campus or any majors courses. So we're really excited to partner with our academic colleagues in the degree granting colleges to make that happen. That should be in place for fall of this year, if not spring year following. So we're also doing some very focused work on our commuters and adult students. So many of you have seen the trends in undergraduate education that the traditional age 18 to 24-year-olds are declining significantly in this region. So our growth opportunity and our opportunity to truly impact the region is to serve the needs of adult and commuter students. And we are defining adult students as any student who has to balance the needs of work, family, and school, and cannot simply devote themselves to one particular endeavor like a traditional undergraduate student can. So we're fundraising right now for a market study of our 3-campus region in order to make sure that, like the MBA program, whatever we build is built on community input and then the actual needs, so we don't build something that the community doesn't need us to engage in. Related to that, the main campus, in collaboration with all of our 3 campuses, is working to develop strategic online programs to meet the needs of those students who might start at one of our 2-year schools, either here with us or at one of the technical colleges, and need that 4-year degree, and right now is going to Rasmussen or Upper Iowa University and not getting as high quality or the UW brand that we might want to have them to have. So we're going to make sure that we can offer that kind of adult degree completion online or a full suite of options for online, either collaboratively with our statewide partners, or that we'll offer ourselves at the university and develop on our own. So those are sort of the program updates. I have a couple other updates on some other areas, but I just wanted to see if there were questions about programs or about our offerings on the branch campus that we can answer at this time.
Supervisor Stark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just curious, this sounds exciting, but I was wondering, what are we doing or what are you doing to help market like the master's programs and the advanced degrees,
Sure.
so that the rest of the people that might have an interest, or even people that just don't know, how we getting the word out?
Sure. So for the MBA program in particular, we're doing a multifaceted campaign where we're reaching out through social media, where a lot of our folks are. We're reaching out through specific employers who've said they have high capacity talent and individuals who are interested. And we're also doing some more traditional marketing, whether it's flyers or mailings, contacts through our networks, reaching out through events on the branch campus. We're going to be having some events and outreach that happen on the campus itself. So we're moving through those, both traditional, digital, and some signage opportunities in order to market those.
Supervisor Schaefer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question on artificial intelligence. I've been skipping 72 years I've been up with it. I'm hearing a lot about this and nobody seems to be concerned about it. If in fact 20 years from now 40% of our jobs in this, basically in the world, are eliminated, what is UWSP planning to do? Because you start school today at 19, you got a lot of years left to work after 39 years, and you have to do something besides run for county board.
That I'm delighted you asked that question, only because my colleague, my associate dean who runs general education and honors, spoke to our incoming class of students who start in January today. And one of the things he talks about is a Microsoft report on artificial intelligence, where they talk about, of course, we're going to need students who have computing skills and programming skills and engineering skills, but we also need students who can think critically, ask moral questions, and be able to understand the role of artificial intelligence in a human society. So we will need individuals educated broadly, educated in critical thinking, educated in the professional and the creative and the basic skills that we educate them in order to interact successfully with this new technology. So are we concerned about it? Sure. Are we preparing our graduates to deal with a world in which AI and other technologies are going to knock on our door and make us ask hard questions? Absolutely.
Well, it's more than a one class.
That is correct. That is correct. That would be our general education program.
Supervisor Lowell.
Thanks. I have two questions. My first question is, how many students would you need to be signed up for the MBA program for it to be sustainable on a semester basis? And what happens if there aren't enough students who sign up for the program, and then what do you do after that?
Sure, that's a great question. So according to the MBA program director, we would like to have 12 students at each site. That's 3 campuses. Then with attrition, we will have sufficient number of students for us to break even. So once we start a cohort, we're not going to stop it. We have an obligation as per our accreditors to teach that out and to make sure that those students get that degree. We have every indication that we're going to be able to meet that target, but we would love to have any assistance that folks, word of mouth, what have you, to promote the program. We do also have a handout that Anne has brought in case anyone's interested in more details about the program. This was, we don't have the marketing materials just yet. Those are almost out. But Anne does have the details of the MBA that she can pass out if you'd like to know more.
Okay, and then we have Supervisor Opal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Call me a traditionalist if you want, but I just don't understand how an online course can have the value of a on-campus course. Now, my son's in the same field you are, and he's written some of these, or helped write some of these, and I have the argument with him all the time, and he's really, well, not convincing enough for me.
Sure.
But can you explain that? I mean, if they can complete it in a year, wow.
Yeah.
Of what value can that be? They must have rushed through it.
Well, I will say that I received my first master's in a year, so and that was face-to-face. But I have taught online, and I have colleagues. I'm going to ask Anne to jump in here as well. In higher education right now, what we focus on is learning outcomes, and are we reaching those outcomes? And the modality in which we meet that, face-to-face, a blend of online and face-to-face or online, is irrelevant. As long as the student can show those objectives, can they, for example, understand balance sheets in finance? Can they make sure that they are able to address leadership competencies? Can they understand how to manage a complex organization? Those are outcomes that we test for. If they can achieve that in an online setting, great. Some courses you can't achieve those outcomes. You can't test behaviors for how you pipe in a lab online, but you can certainly get an experience with something that arrives at your home that you can prove that, yes, you can do that. Anne, did you want to add anything to that since you have more experience in the classroom?
Please, Anne, otherwise.
We're recording it on TV.
So I taught for online classes before I moved into this position. And I'll say that as an instructor in an online class, I didn't enjoy it nearly as much as I enjoy face-to-face. And so you and I might be on the same page that way. The face-to-face interaction, right, the discussion. And for me as an instructor, and I think for a student, it was a lot more of the things that neither of us wanted to do more of. More writing for them and more grading for me, which from the instructor perspective, that was not nearly as enjoyable as meeting with students face-to-face and having conversations. Having said that, though, it's incredibly rigorous, that kind of coursework. It almost asks more of a student in terms of their output. And if a student is able to get through in a year in a master's program, any master's program has to meet certain credit requirements anyway. The way they do this is they've got summer courses, winterim courses. They are moving without a break through that curriculum to finish up in a year. So it's rigorous. It is incredibly challenging. You have to be a very focused student to do well in the online environment. But as we know, that's the fastest growing modality in higher ed right now.
Supervisor Robinson.
Well, thank you for coming tonight, and I appreciate the efforts to try to expand higher educational opportunities for in our community. I guess I'm concerned about a couple of things, and you're here tonight as a partnership because the county owns the buildings. Yet there was a decision made to rename the facility, and as a former student at both UW Marathon County, which it will be forever, and UW Stevens Point. I was troubled by that because I think it devalued the education in the minds of others. And you continue to come to us and ask for funding for the facilities, and it's not a truly reflected partnership. But I would hope that in the future, that as we approach issues in higher education, that we really are that partner in those discussions moving forward, and that I know that many of these decisions were made in Madison and not here, but I think that that's created uncertainty. I think the whole issue of our association with Stevens Point in this period of turmoil as to what majors will and will not be there, diminished case or student FTEs. My concern is the future with our relationship with UW Stevens Point, which had a significant drop in numbers. Are we at risk? What are the risks to the Wausau campus? What are the risks to higher educational opportunities in the area? And what's being done? I know some of the things are being done, but are there some strategic planning efforts underway to ensure that we will continue to have higher educational opportunities through the UW system in Wausau, through the Marathon County buildings?
So that's a very large question, and I will do my best to answer it. But if I don't answer it, I encourage you to ask a follow-up question to ask for more. Some of what we're discussing tonight, the adult-focused programs, the MBA programs, the online push through our quality instructors that we have on our Wausau campus, as well as our instructors in other campuses, that is part of how we survive in this higher education marketplace. Higher ed as an entire market has too much supply and not enough demand if we're focusing on the traditional undergraduate population, which is the root of both UW Stevens Point main campus and our Wausau and Marshfield facilities. So we are now taking strategic steps to move beyond that core, to still serve that core very well. And we are currently serving, I forget the current number, a strong number of undergraduates, about 700 undergraduates at our Wausau campus, as well as the students at our other two campuses in that traditional mode and serving their needs. But we're expanding our already focused programs into adult, into online, and into graduate more aggressively. And by example of the MBA, with a regional focused MBA that is unique to the region, and gives a competitive advantage ahead of a generic MBA from an online university or a generic MBA from someplace at a distance that's, Arizona State University. This is something that's focused that individuals in the region will benefit from. That's the kind of strategic thinking that we're engaging in as part of UWSP's strategic plan, their Partnership for Thriving Communities, where being in partnership now with our two branch campuses and the counties that represent those branch campuses, as well as Portage County on our main campus, we can now more aggressively and more intentionally serve those communities instead of just being an undergraduate-focused institution that we've been in the past. So this represents a spectacular partnership as far as I'm concerned, and an opportunity for us to grow and sustain through the decline of higher education in the traditional marketplace. Is there risk? Of course there's risk. Do we have a lot going on the main campus that also impacts the branch campuses? Of course. But we have to boldly walk through that discernment as opposed to continue to wring our hands and be concerned that we aren't going to be able to solve our problems, but be mindful and answer concerns as we encounter them, knowing that we have a strategy to move forward. Absolutely.
So I'll add that two things, really. I know many of you. I've lived here since 1998. I've taught your kids. I've taught you in some cases. I'm getting older. And I will teach your grandchildren in the future. And if you come and visit our campus, you will see other people that you know have built lives, have built careers in this community. We are here right with you, John, building this community and collaborating. The people that you come and see on our campus are absolutely committed to this place and will remain so, to our students. And I feel really passionately about this because for us it is still a collaboration. We're taking a different form, and in many ways the institution that we used to be couldn't meet the needs couldn't meet the needs of the county. We had non-trads who could do 2 years and go no further. Well, now we'll have new opportunities for non-trads to finally deliver the kind of education that we wanted to deliver before, but our institution was too hamstrung by the structure of the UW system. We couldn't. It was a 2-year degree, and that was all we were allowed to provide. Our institution was further eroded because of budget cuts, right? And as many of you know, the process of regionalization and centralization pulled staff off of campus and really hamstrung the campus to deliver, to be able to deliver. You all know that that was the reality the last 3 years. If anything, I feel a sense that we can move forward and deliver in ways that we couldn't deliver before in Marathon County.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Supervisor Stark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to show my naivete here a little bit when it comes to the online. And so since I don't know much about it other than not much about it. And when I sit there and I think about it, I hear it and I think to myself, all right, so here I am sitting at home on my computer and I'm answering questions. How do you know I'm not cheating? So I guess when you get to final scoring and determining if somebody, because I've done correspondence stuff when I was in the military, I did a lot of that, but it was like you had written exams that were done in front of monitors, and so there was no ability to game the system. What is the process of like making sure that whatever that student is it's really their work and they know how to do it?
Well, certainly students are wily in any format. So online is not immune to that. I will say from my experience in teaching online and connecting with others, you know your students' work. You know if a marginal student suddenly aces the final that something's gone wrong, and you can take some steps. There's also technology that can help us, such as two-factor authentication, where they have to log in 2 places with 2 devices in order, like your bank has you do. There's also monitoring services that and proctoring services that some online courses engage in. So there are methods, just like there are methods face-to-face to address that, but that's certainly a valid concern.
Okay, Supervisor Krause.
Thank you, Chair. I have 2 questions, or maybe even more than that, but I completed an MBA online, and it wasn't a local online, it was an out-of-state online. It was very intense. It was 16 classes, a quarter system. Do you have quarters, and how many classes? What is your curriculum? How does it pertain to the community? You said it's of this community, so what specific classes are there that relate to this community?
Mm-hmm. So I'm actually going to ask Ann to pass out, or have someone pass out the handout that we have, because it has all of that information on it. So in lieu of repeating it here, I'd like the handout to speak to it. But we are working with our traditional 3 semesters, spring, winter, and fall, or spring, fall, and summer, and we have a short winterim session that has a briefer 3-4 week intensive courses that we'll also be offering. So it's 3 semesters plus a winterim where these courses will be offered. So.
Okay, Supervisor Gill, and I think that'll be the last question, and then we'll let Ann finish her presentation.
Thank you, Chair. And mine isn't actually a question other than, again, extending my appreciation for having you both here. But I did want to, if that's all right, respond to one of the statements that Supervisor Robinson made, because I realized that I had not done an appropriate job as chair of the Extension, Education, and Economic Development Committee, conveying the communications that were had about the name change. And so just so that everyone is clear, the UW team did speak with our committee specifically. I met with the chancellor, in fact, and then we had a discussion in our committee. We wrote a letter supporting the name change, and I did go down to Madison and spoke on behalf of our county to the Board of Regents, also supporting the name change after discussions which leadership was aware of. Because the feeling was that we need to turn things around with this campus. As the administrator mentioned earlier, the biggest issue is not the name, it's the fact that it still exists and is growing, hopefully. We had to reverse trends, and in the realm of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results, part of doing new things, we felt, was to get that rebrand. When I've talked to students, I have kids in high school, and their friends, I bounced the idea of going to UW Marathon County off of them. And without knowing anything about the campus, the immediate perception in today's generation, undeserved as it is I'm smarter than that. Why would I go to UW Marathon County? It has, unfortunately, for people who don't know, who haven't had the good experiences that many of us in the room already have, it wasn't getting the name recognition and the draw that would have helped grow the population that we needed. And so we believed that supporting this and being a partner, we didn't have a say, which is why it didn't come to the full board. It wasn't a votable item. It wasn't, the way our partnership agreement is drawn up is they do have the rights over the name of that facility. The decision was made to support it, to show our unified front, to say that we will move forward in this direction together. And so I just want to be very clear that this wasn't something that UW snuck behind and did without us. We did do it jointly, although it didn't come up to the full board. So if there was any misconceptions on that, I apologize. And if you have questions, I'd be happy to talk afterwards about it. But that is all I wanted to clarify.
Okay. Ann, you want to finish your presentation if there's anything else?
Yeah, so we do, we have, you will notice that now all of the external signs are updated, so we don't have signs covered over anymore, so we're very glad that everything is fresh and signed correctly. I did also want to mention that we are working on some other program development that is outside of traditional education but meets more of the needs of individuals, such as boot camp trainings for certain things like organic chemistry labs or small certificates or project management or one-off instruction through our continuing education. We're continuing to listen to the community and working with manufacturers and working with producers in the area to find out what are those kind of one-off things that we can do to continue to have professional development. So, but you all have answered sort of the last thing, which was what do we need to know, and you all have been very vocal tonight in asking questions. But as always, if there's anything that you need, please contact Ann, please contact me, and we're more than happy to work with you and to continue to be partners with you as we move forward.
Okay, Supervisor Rosenberg.
Supervisor Gums just pushed my button, so.
Okay. Is there any other questions?
Yeah, but I do have a question.
Okay. Supervisor Gums.
I knew you would answer. She pushed hers. Me, you probably would have went right by. Okay, I'm just going to ask dumb questions. Do we still have volleyball and basketball sponsored by the university, and why?
Because it recruits students to the campus, and it provides options for students living in the residence hall to, for things to do in the evening, ways to interact with each other. They're not terribly expensive, actually, to run, and I think the students would say they bring a lot of benefit. And they're really fun to watch, so come by Wednesday evenings.
Yeah.
Supervisor Seibert, the last question.
Financially, what's the cost of the program? And second is, what's going to stop all the others from copying the exact same courses that you're going to offer?
So I don't have the particular program costs for the MBA, and costs vary widely from program to program. So I can't give a succinct answer to that tonight, but I can follow up with some additional information. It's on the website? Mm-hmm. Oh, it's on the website.
The cost to students?
Oh, the cost to students is on the website. Yes. Sorry, I was thinking in terms of the cost to put it on. My apologies. So the cost to students is on the website, www.uwsp.edu/MBA. So, but higher education is full of copycats. It's just a matter of how effective you are in putting the curriculum on. And I think our instructors And our program approach and the UW brand is part of what will attract students to get our version of the degree, as opposed to someone else who decides to take our great ideas and try to copy them. So.
Okay, with that, I would like to extend my sincere thank you to Gretel and to Ann for providing us the information as far as the UWSP campus, Wausau campus, and how the transition is going. And thank you. And if there's ever a time that you want to come back and provide additional information, you're more than welcome.
Great.
So
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
And we will move on then to review and discussion on Tuesday meeting agenda items. Under number 9A, we will have a memorial for the life and service of Edward F. Fenhouse on Tuesday. We'll move on to item number 9B, appointments, Local Emergency Planning Committee.
To appoint Sosaya Konavishna from Abbeyland Foods, replacing Justin Schrader.
Any questions? Okay, item 9B2, the 2019 Emergency Fire Wardens. Those should, the whole list should be received in your packet. Is there any questions? Okay, moving on to item number 9C, resolutions. Environmental Resources Committee under 9C1A, Town of Wausau Local Zoning Ordinance Amendments. Okay, under 9C1B, Town of Weston Local Zoning Ordinance Amendments. And then we have from the Human Resources, Finance, and Property Committee, under 9C2A, resolution to amend the 2019 funding for rolling stock. Any questions? All right. And item 9C2B, initial resolution authorizing not to exceed $2,295,000 general obligation promissory notes for capital improvement plan projects. This will require a 3/4 majority of the board. That means the full board. 3/4 means we do need 29 ayes to approve the bonding authority. Any absentee is a no. Any questions on that resolution? Okay. In item 9C2C, resolution declaring official intent to reimburse expenditures on capital improvement plan projects from proceeds of the borrowing. Any questions on that resolution? Okay. Announcements and/or requests. Any announcements and/or requests? Okay, just a note to the full board that next Tuesday's meeting is at 7:30. It was one of the negotiated, if you will, compromises with the city of Wausau and their council to try to accommodate the city of Wausau representatives that sit on the city council and the county board. And so the meeting will start next Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Any other discussion? I will take the infamous motion by Supervisor Schaefer and Supervisor Rosenberg with a second to adjourn. Any discussion? All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and I will see everyone on Tuesday.